Just want to disclose publicly that my political campaign was a client of Mr. Mitchell's firm, just to make sure we all know. I see my chief of staff in the audience, and I know that she keeps me in compliance. But no, this is a great panel, excellent suggestions. I think that, look, it really is this larger dynamic about these barriers to entry. I thought, Professor Levinson, your analysis of that is exactly how, at least I think about this stuff. And I just think we've got to take the most aggressive approach possible to remove every barrier. I did the $200 million in voting machines because I saw what happened in Florida and tried to do same-day registration years ago, and we got 15, and now we got the same day. These are important. I think we're going to see technology interceding where we can, in fact, tweet our votes, so to speak, into the system. We do everything else. We buy cars and look at our genetics and everything else on these instruments. And, so I think you're going to see that. And I think it's great, Mr. Chairman, that you're doing this committee because we really need to take a big picture approach to this stuff. I only look at this thing as that there really is an effort by folks to have a chilling effect on people voting. That has been a history of this country and community after community throughout and state by state. And so it's time to just get past that to really make the Voting Rights Act real. I suspect if Martin Luther King were here today, he'd be pretty upset about the state of affairs after the price that they paid on that bridge and other endeavors with respect to voting. And we've just got to get on with it, number one, and then give people reasons to vote and take out every barrier possible. If at the end of the day they choose not to, it is not Australia, but we've got to make it real. And the last thing is kind of the reality test in all of this. Is Kathy was talking about this a little bit in how we run campaigns. We politicians try to fish for any vote that we can find, anybody who would vote for us. If everybody has a ballot, everybody's registered, we have a broader swath to try to get people to vote, knocking on doors instead of getting the last day, get out the vote where you identify your ones and twos with your political data, but to do it in a way where we're doing it for a month. We've seen it in other jurisdictions, and to me, the more you can get people to participate, you in fact create this dynamic between candidates and campaigns and voters, is to articulate the reasons why you should vote rather than just some last-minute schmear thing, and really, I think, not only enhance the participation, but enhance the integrity and quality of the communication that when people are voting. So it's all good, and your excellent suggestions. And Chairman, I think you should introduce bills on all those measures.
That's what we're trying to figure out here. Thank you so much, Senator. Thank you so much to the panelists for your very, very insightful comments and thoughts. We're next going to hear from Dean Logan, who all eyes are on Registrar Recorder Dean Logan, who is tasked with running the elections system here for Los Angeles County, and he's got some very interesting ideas about extending out the period of time for voting. We're going to be hearing his proposals and also the past experience of the county. So good to see you here, Mr. Logan, and we look forward to your comments.
Great. Good afternoon, Chairman Allen and Senator Hertzberg. Thank you for having the hearing today. I hope that you will indulge me. A lot of what I intend to cover in my remarks is somewhat duplicative of testimony you've already heard, but I do think it's important to be on the record and for you to hear my voice as a practitioner of the election administration process, and to convey to you and your colleagues in the legislature that we as election administrators do recognize our role in this process of encouraging voter turnout and participation. So for the record, my name is Dean Logan, and I am the Registrar Recorder County Clerk for Los Angeles County. I'm pleased to appear before you today and to participate in this dialogue about voter participation in Los Angeles County. The issues, challenges, and opportunities associated with voter engagement and participation in the communities that make up LA County are extremely important and timely. I want to assure you and your colleagues in the legislature that I take these issues very seriously, and I recognize their significance to the broader discussion on the health and future of our electoral process in the state. With 4.8 million registered voters, Los Angeles County is the largest county elections jurisdiction in the nation. To put that into perspective, the registered voter population in this county exceeds the statewide electorate in 42 of the 50 states. In addition to our size, the county is also characterized by socioeconomic, racial, and ethnic diversity. While these elements make for a vibrant democratic process, they also present a number of challenges when it comes to encouraging eligible citizens to register and vote. For example, despite its large electorate, as you've heard already today, there are an estimated 1.2 million eligible citizen adults not registered to vote in LA County. Under the provisions of the Federal and State Voting Rights Act, the county provides language assistance in 9 written languages and bilingual poll worker support in an additional 3 languages other than English. The geography of the county, covering 4,083 square miles, includes both urban and rural areas, coastal and inland regions, and communities that represent nearly all extremes of the socioeconomic status. Los Angeles counties are also characterized with high rates of mobility. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, on average, county residents move every 1.2 years, and as you can imagine, the rate of updating their voter registration information and status is much slower. Additionally, data collected by the U.S. Census Bureau indicates the 2 fastest growing populations in the county are residents between the ages of 18 and 25 and those over the age of 65. And for the first time in our history, residents under the age of 30 make up a plurality of the county's population. As the Registrar Recorder County Clerk, I serve as the Chief Elections Official charged with the effective administration and conduct of federal, state, and local elections in Los Angeles County. Beyond my department's administrative responsibilities is its responsibility to also ensure that the elections process is accessible to all registered voters through sustained efforts to educate, inform, encourage, and facilitate voter participation. It is my strong belief that increased voter participation is founded on an accessible electoral process that eliminates barriers and reduces the effort and resources necessary for our eligible citizens to register and vote. A comprehensive voter outreach and education program is a necessary and critical function of elections administration. Our department maintains a modest yet permanent staffing level devoted to planning and implementing year-round voter outreach and education programs. These efforts sustain our ongoing commitment to foster a strong culture of voter participation in the county. However, the challenge of scale and dwindling resources can often limit the impact of those efforts. I'm happy to provide specific examples of those activities during Q&A or as a follow-up to today's hearing. Over the past 3 decades, voter turnout in Los Angeles County, as in much of the state, has been declining, especially in primary and off-year elections, declining from 53% voter turnout in the 1982 statewide primary to 23% in the June 2010 primary, and more recently 17% in the June 2014 statewide primary. And as has already been highlighted this morning, we are all alarmed by the historically low turnout in the most recent November gubernatorial general election. While this decline in participation is relatively recent, history of the American voting experience is ripe with examples of citizens embracing the voting franchise as a means of shifting public policy, flexing civil rights, and breaking through barriers. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Federal Voting Rights Act, we're reminded of the significance and the very recent uncertainty and imbalance associated with the freedom to register and to vote. Local examples here in Los Angeles County tell stories of voters mobilizing around events and issues despite system limitations and administrative barriers. In 2008, when regulatory changes imposed by the Secretary of State curtailed early voting options in Los Angeles County, voters still flocked to our offices in Norwalk, literally wrapping around the building and standing in lines to cast votes in advance of Election Day. In 2003, voter participation in the off-cycle recall election well exceeded what we experienced in November. And in 2011, a very local example, voters in the city of Bell showed up in droves to reclaim governance of the city after the aftermath of the high-profile political corruption in that community. Arguably, more than any electoral jurisdiction in the country, Los Angeles County voters have seen the elections process leveraged to break ethnic, socioeconomic, and gender barriers, leading the nation in the election of public officials representing the breadth of the demographics that define the county. Why then are we experiencing record low rates of voter participation? Increasingly, as you've heard today and as referenced in your earlier remarks, the discussion around voter participation is focused on the mechanics of how elections are conducted, the places, dates, times, options, and equipment used to vote here in Los Angeles County and beyond. Recent coverage has highlighted statistical disparities between the geographic population base in Los Angeles County and higher rates of voter participation in lower populated regions of the state, and the variance in the number of voters registered to vote by mail in other regions of the state compared to Los Angeles County. With regard to vote by mail, let me be clear that Los Angeles County actively promotes options for voting by mail, and the use of mail ballots, while consistently remaining below statewide averages, has steadily increased over the past decade. In the past 5 years, for example, the number of permanent vote by mail voters has increased from just over 600,000 in 2010 to nearly 1.6 million today.